Or it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi villains, welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. I am back again after last night's podcast with Paddy. Oh, it's very grainy on my screen. I hope you'll forgive me for the graininess of my camera. Don't know what that's about. But I said I'd come back to you guys and chat to you a little bit about a belated transfer link that we've seen, and that is to Harvey Barnes of Leicester. Somebody that I think a lot of people have been excited about since the links. Obviously did untold damage against Aston Villa in both games this year, scoring one really, really good goal against us, but always being a threat against us and being the main threat, I suppose, really for a Leicester team who flattered to deceive this season and ultimately went down under Dean Smith, and it would be interesting to see how they rebuild from the Championship from here. But it looks like they're going to be rebuilding without the services of Harvey Barnes, and it's been reported recently that there's quite a lot of teams in for him, and as you can see why he's got a lot of suitors is because he's got some very, very specific skill sets. I suppose realistically, when we talk about him here, is he the finished article? I suppose, is he a rounded player? I don't think he is myself, but does he have something that this team needs? And boy, yes, does he have something this team needs, because he has pace and he has power of running in abundance. So I suppose before we get to talk about and we look at some of the slides that I have on him, I think one of the biggest things that Aston Villa have been missing over the course of the last season, and specifically since Unai Emery came in, is that change of pace player. We've tried to have it in Leon Bailey on the right-hand side, but as we know, it's been very, very hit and miss and hot and cold with Leon Bailey throughout the course of this season. And one of Barnes' strongest skill sets and one of his strongest points is, I suppose, his ability to beat a defender one-on-one. We've seen it for Villa. He can power past them with his pace, as I say. He's only 5'9", 5'8.5", 5'9", depending on where you read. But he's got very good upper body strength, and he can push past players and use his direct running skills to be able to blow past players. And that's something that we see is very, very I suppose it's very sought after, I think, within the Premier League as well. He's a really good dribbler. Don't get me wrong. It's not all pace and power. He's a good dribbler, able to dribble with both his left and right feet, although he is predominantly played on that left-hand side for Leicester. And I think I'll speak about that in a moment, as with regards to, having that left-hand side threat, and maybe even moving a small bit further forward, maybe into that Buendia role that we've seen Unai Emery deploy recently, or at times, should I say, for Aston Villa as well. The fact that he's able to dribble with both left and right feet, and you can see that in abundance, it gives him that little bit of unpredictability, specifically when he's facing defenders on one-on-ones, and that's why I think he can be so good in those one-on-one areas as well. Very good change of direction, very good change of pace, as I mentioned before, very good balance. So you often find that he's completely in control. He's able to keep control of the ball, and his close control of the ball is well knitted, I suppose, with his pace and with his power, and that's what leads him to be able to turn defenders, get defenders maybe facing front ways to back ways, and then utilize his change of pace then from that point. And when I talk about his change of pace as well, something I love to see in a defender, in a winger, is the fact that he's able to slow down the play and then accelerate quickly. So obviously, Jack Grealish used to do this brilliantly, still does this brilliantly for Manchester City, being able to slow down the pace, lure the defender in, knock the ball past them, win a free, or even just when you knock the ball past them, you're able to carry that on, and you've got the defender on their heels. So therefore, you have 2 or 3 yards on that defender, and something that Aston Villa just have not had this season. We really haven't. We saw a kind of a change in our possession game, to be able to play kind of triangles around people. It was more a passing the move kind of style. We saw that with Douglas Luiz's goal against Bournemouth, I'm going to say it was. And we've seen Jacob Ramsey utilize it quite a lot, starting attacks, getting on the end of them. His goal against Liverpool, I think, showed that that kind of ability to be able to do that. But somebody like a Harvey Barnes, he's got that more direct kind of carry the ball ability that Villa lacked and thought we were getting in Leon Bailey, specifically on the counter attack, specifically playing away from home. We just didn't get to see it as much as we wanted to, and I don't know will we get to see it next year either, or will he be able to improve on his one-on-one abilities? This is Leon Bailey I'm speaking about as we go into the 2023-24 season. One of the other really good pieces I like about Harvey Barnes is close ball control. So I mentioned it before, trying, and this wasn't always the case with him. You go back 2 years ago, even Harvey Barnes would have been considered ambitious. He would have been considered, I suppose, somebody who was kind of a maverick that would have been okay with losing the ball over favoring trying to keep possession, as long as he was trying to create something. I hope that makes sense. So he was almost given a free rein and a license to try something all the time. And this year it's been different. And this year we've seen he's had more goals than he's had in any season in the Premier League. This season he has kind of changed his game, but he's not going to change his game. He has changed his game. He's become more of a creator, and he's also become he's also become more of a player that you can. Obviously, he's got more goals, but he's become more of a player who makes the right decision. That's what I'm trying to say. That was a long-winded way of trying to say at times in previous seasons, he didn't really make the right decision when he was on the ball. This season, albeit he's only had one assist. Last season, he had 10 assists. When he played with Leicester, this season he only had one assist. He was tasked with kind of being more the focal point, should I say, when in attack. He was given license to go forward and back himself. James Maddison, as we know, is always going to be that player that's going to have that free license role to be able to roam around. Last season under Brendan Rodgers, arguably both Maddison and Harvey Barnes had that role. So what I'm trying to get at here essentially is the creator aspect of him, that maverick aspect of him, that ability to be able to make something happen and to try something in the final third. He is able to do that. We saw it last season, 6 goals, 10 assists. This season, then we've seen it kind of flip around to him being a more goal scoring threat, somebody who's been kind of burdened with having to score those goals within this Leicester team. And albeit that the team did go down, they didn't really have a striker they could hang their hat on. Well, Harvey Barnes was the man who was getting goals and who nearly fired them to safety. So why am I mentioning this? And it goes back to what I said at the very, very start of the podcast, and that is thinking about that Buendia role, that Leon Bailey role, that role beside that Ollie Watkins at the top of that 4-4-2. While I have him down here as a left winger, I think that there might be a kind of a thought process there that we might be able to play him in that support striker role. His ability to be able to play with both feet, to dribble with both feet, albeit that he does prefer being on that left-hand side. I think it would be favourable in the way that he would drag defenders around the place higher up the field, while we would have that bank of 4 would also be able to give us stability. And as I mentioned previously, the fact that we would have those guys that would creating space for those guys in midfield to be able to get forward, the McGinns, Douglas Luiz's, Jacob Ramsey's, and et al., whoever else we bring in this off-season. But having somebody like that, like a Harvey Barnes up there, who's had a fantastic goal-scoring season this season, who's had a fantastic assist-making season last season while still scoring 6 goals, having that ability up there beside Ollie Watkins could be very, very beneficial for this team. And it could be something that Unai Emery is thinking of and maybe thinking to utilise for Harvey Barnes. Well, let's take a little look at some of the slides I've prepared on Harvey Barnes. And one thing I want to say about this is, I've spoken about the player there with regards to his attributes, his traits, what we see on the field. And I've often said within these scouting pieces and within the transfer window pieces that, you got to look at the player, you got to look at what he brings to the team, and not just look at his statistics. And likewise, when you see a player that has fantastic statistics, you have to see, does that actually, do you see it on the field? Number one, and second of all, well, do we need a player who has that kind of output? Do we need a player who, is a ball hog? Do we need a player who? Do we play in a style which leads to have somebody making 10 dribble attempts per 90 minutes? And I think that's really important to look at, and I think it's really important to look for as well. And the reason I'm saying this is because Harvey Barnes' statistics outside of goal scoring last season aren't very like when you look at them, they don't really jump off the page. And we'll see that in a moment, because when we take a little look at how he stacks up against Emi Buendia, Philippe Coutinho, and Leon Bailey, we can see main areas in where he stacks up against are goal creating actions, which we know he scored more goals this season than he has in seasons past. He's had more shots on target this season, which is something we really need from this team. Getting shots on target is always good. More shots you have on target, the more chances you have of scoring goals. But his shot creating actions for other people are low. His pass attempts per game are low, so he's not a ball hog, as I mentioned. And even though I waxed lyrically about his ability to take somebody on one and to be successful while dribbling, his successful dribble rate last season was quite low. So when we're always looking at a player, whenever we're looking at a player, we don't want to get kind of besotted or bedazzled by the numbers at times, specifically for attacking players, because Harvey Barnes was the main outlet for a team who performed way under where they should have performed this season. There's no way Leicester should have been relegated, based on the players that they have. Not hope in hell. They should not have been relegated based on the players that they have, and I firmly believe that. And that seeps into every single player within the team. But Harvey Barnes almost kept them up with his goals. So he was being obviously utilized in a different way. He was obviously being tasked in a different way. And I go back to, again, once more, to talking about his ability to play in that supporting striker role, potentially for Aston Villa, because we know that he's played in different way in different seasons in the past. And I think as a 25-year-old, soon to be 26-year-old, putting all those experiences he has together with the 13 goals under his belt that he scored last season, I think is a big plus for him. And I just wanted to mark that as a caveat. Now, would he be my first choice to sign for Aston Villa in that role? I'll be honest, I don't think he would be. But would I be disappointed if he was to come in and play for Aston Villa next season? Based on what I've seen him do and based on what he can do on the field, I think he would be a very, very, very good addition to this squad. Whether we end up spending 30 million on him or not, I don't know. But let's say that we don't have a Leon Bailey next season. Let's say we don't have a Philippe Coutinho. And I think that there's a relatively good chance that both of those players, it's a non-zero chance that we start next season without both of those players, or at least having upgraded those players. And I think that Harvey Barnes is an upgrade on both of those players based on what we've seen them do for Aston Villa. Now, can Harvey Barnes replicate his form for Leicester in an Aston Villa shirt? That's to be seen. I don't see any reason why at this moment in time, I don't see any reason why he couldn't, but I don't see any reason to say that he absolutely will for 100% sure. And that's just me being honest, I suppose, really, because Harvey Barnes has been in an upward trajectory almost in every single year that he's played. He's done something different. He's played in a different way. He's reached a different milestone. And I think if he comes to Aston Villa, he's got the mindset, he's got the mentality, he's got that hard work ethic, it seems, to be able to improve this squad. And when we look at what he brings here, we can see, yes, he doesn't have that the passing accuracy of Philippe Coutinho. I see that on the field. He takes chances with passes. When they come off, they're absolutely fantastic. But we mentioned that. He takes chances with those passes. He has done in the past. And remember, the statistics I shared with you were over a 365-day period. So it does take into account last season as well. So he does take chances on the field. Successful dribbles. When he gets past players, we've seen him get past players. He's got a worse successful dribble rate here than Leon Bailey. I find that amazing, because when I look at him on the field, I feel he's a better dribbler of the ball than Leon Bailey. So sometimes statistics can be misleading, sometimes your eyes can be misleading as well. So there's quite a lot of different areas here that I think that you can take real positives to fit within this specific Aston Villa team for Harvey Barnes. But there's also, if you're somebody out there that's looking at Harvey Barnes and you're thinking, he's not the player we need someone of a higher quality. Looking at the statistics and also looking at the play as well, there are areas where he does need to improve. But I'm very much of the opinion here. You know me, I'm glass half full. I don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think within this transfer window as well, we will be linked to these players that will be outrageous. There'll be an outrageous clamour for them. Manuel Ugarte and Marco Asensio, both of those players haven't moved anywhere just yet. It's been mooted that they will move other places. If Aston Villa somehow managed to sign either of those two players, it would be fantastic. But I think that Harvey Barnes would be somebody who would come in here, and I could definitely see, the pros outweigh the cons very much so. I think with a player of this profile, of this skill set, and of this age profile as well, I think within this Aston Villa team. Now, whether it comes to fruition, I don't know, but I think he's definitely somebody to keep an eye on, because that excitement factor that he brings is something I think that that Aston Villa kind of need with regards to his ball carrying ability, and that pace and power is something that Unai Emery will really, really like. So I'm going to end it on that. It's a really quick one for you guys. As I say, I find it difficult to talk about players who have been entrenched in the Premier League for so long, and Harvey Barnes is one of those players, because you guys will have all seen him, count 4 or 5, 6 times a season. So you will have your own opinions on him, and that's great. And I hope we all have opinions, and I hope they all differ slightly or differ massively, and I hope we can all talk about them, and I hope you agree with some of these things. And if you disagree with them, that's absolutely fine. That's the beauty of having these conversations. I would love if you put your comments in the comment section here. Whether you agree with anything I've said today, whether you disagree with it, or whether you think that this is going to be a good signing, or whether you think that it would be an underwhelming signing, that's okay too, because this transfer window is going to throw up an awful lot of names, and Unai Emery is going to get players. In the main, is going to get players I think that we can all be excited about, that are going to fit into this system. And I, for one, am here for every single second of it. So thanks so much, everybody. I really appreciate you for watching this. Please give it a thumbs up, and please like and subscribe to the podcast. It costs you nothing to subscribe to the podcast. As we say here in Ireland, it costs you free 99. That's what it costs you to sign up for the podcast, to subscribe for the podcast. So I'd really appreciate if you consider doing that. Help us grow those subscription numbers, help us grow within the algorithm, and help us reach a bigger audience as we go throughout this transfer window. So with that, I just want to say to everybody, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And here's looking forward to a fantastic transfer window. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.